So I've always been the person that's kind of behind the scenes, promoting the person that is the talent. So now, as a business owner, you kind of have to, in order to showcase yourself and to get your business the attention that it needs, you do have to become the quote unquote talent a bit, you know?
Hmm.
You have to put your face at the forefront, and it can be very uncomfortable, but it does pay off. It is necessary, and it does help you get the clients that you're looking for, and help weed out some potential headaches.
Yeah.
Because I think if anyone's an entrepreneur or not, even if they've just been in a service-based or customer-facing business, um, you've worked with people that are just not really your people.
Welcome to the Confident Mompreneur podcast, where you can find solid advice along with warm guidance on motherhood, business, relationships, health, wellness, and everything you need to help add to your confidence and zest for life. And with interesting guests from all around the world, you'll hear real and relatable stories with impact and nuggets of wisdom to help you or the mompreneur meet the challenges of life with clarity and success. Now let's welcome your mompreneur host, Kyrie.
Well, welcome on today, Michelle. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, we were just chatting a little bit beforehand about how crazy adjusting from summer schedules to regular schedules has been, but it's
Yeah.
nice that we both have made the time to be here. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I know. I feel like we try to soak up as much of summer as possible. We're in New York, so we definitely have all the seasons. And I feel really guilty when I don't get enough quality time outside in the summer. So just like definitely allowing for that. But I'm also very eager to get back into routines and
Yeah.
school and all the fall things,
Yes. It's
making
like
time for
kind
all
of
that.
rainy and gloomy and folly here, and it feels so nice because I'm in Wyoming where we don't have
Uh-huh.
seasons. We just
Yep.
have summer or winter. So those like few days of fall, I'm like soaking in.
Yes, yes, yep. So go find some pumpkins, bring them home,
Yeah,
decorate them,
yeah,
get all
do all
that
the things.
done.
I'm always grateful for the change of seasons, though. It's kind of
Yeah.
nice to adjust and, be able to just kind of get into a new groove. So, for those who don't know you, do you want to start us out by introducing yourself, a little bit about who you are, your family, what you do, all of the things?
Yeah. So my name is Michelle Charpentier. I'm the founder of Sharp Consulting. I had a long, long career in corporate, predominantly corporate retail. And then I was pregnant with my daughter when the pandemic hit, and I lost my corporate retail job. And but I always kind of knew I wanted to have something for myself. It always kind of felt like a dream. And then there I was in a situation where pregnant, needed to find a job, needed to make money. And so I saw my opportunity. So that's really honestly how my business was born, was helping other businesses that were kind of struggling during the pandemic. They depended a lot on foot traffic, especially, the mom and pop businesses. It's how I kind of started out, helping them with their social media and website design. And I had launched buy online, pick up in store and retail. And so I was able to help some stores kind of do those things, and then also help other moms and friends of mine who were in a similar position where they lost their jobs, and they were either looking to start a business or they were looking to find a job. So helping them with branding and things like that. So, which brings me to today, fast forward a few years later. So now I really specifically support women-owned businesses and mompreneurs. I live in New York with my daughter just turned 4. My son is almost 2.5, and we have a 17-year-old. So it's senior year. So we're kind of all over the place in
Yeah.
terms of milestones and things like that, but never a dull moment over here, needless to say.
I mean, sounds like most of us, we're all just doing all of the things.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I'm sure that was like so scary for you. I can't imagine being pregnant, losing your job, facing the pandemic, and it was like such a crazy time anyway. How did you handle that? And like, what was the decision making process that you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go all in on it and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that it was such a shock to me. And I think that a lot of us, because of our position in our company, we kind of feel this false sense of security. So, regardless of what was happening in the world and at my company that I was supporting, I I honestly didn't really see it coming, So I wasn't really planning for, I didn't have a backup plan. Um, but I've always been like super resourceful and like, okay, all right, what are we gonna do next? So but there was a lot of shock, and it was scary, because I mean, I started working when I was like 13, 14, babysitting the neighborhood kids. And then I wanted a cell phone really bad. My parents didn't think I needed one. So I went and I got a job. And that was my first job when I was like 15, 16 years old. I started working retail, bought myself a prepaid cell phone, and then I've always just been financially, for the most part, independent, and prided myself on that. And so, yeah, it was really scary when, you planned to have a child and we were blessed with getting pregnant, and then all of these things happen that are so outside of your hands. And then it was like the things running through my brain were, well, who's going to hire me? I'm pregnant, even though, you can't really discriminate against that, but that's, a fact. And then I want to spend time with my child. I want to have maternity leave. And if I start working at a company, like, I won't necessarily be guaranteed maternity leave because I haven't worked there for so long. And not everyone is so generous with their time off policy. So yeah, it was a dark time, honestly. Like, it was just really scary. And bringing someone into the world like that. And then I also was trying to be so mindful of, I don't want to be like stressed and depressed because I know like the baby, like, can feed off of how I'm feeling and my emotions. And so just trying to like be so hyper aware of what was going on, and to, add fuel to the fire, like, no one knew what was going on. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't really necessarily turn to anyone or anything as a reliable source of like, we'll just do this and like it'll be fine, because like no one really knew what was going on. Like, this is before we
Or
knew
when it
any
would end
masks
or
and
yeah.
yeah, like, when is it gonna end? Like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So yeah, so it was, but I think, uh I guess just allowing myself to feel what I needed to feel, and recognizing that I really hadn't slowed down since I was about 13, 14 years old. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just embrace, like, we're all in this together. I'm not alone here in this. Like, I'm not, special. Like, there are a lot of people that are going through this, unfortunately. Um, so just like finding people that were kind of going through it, finding people and resources that were willing to help, um, whatever that be for. I had a few amazing coworkers that had reached out to me, and they gave me a bunch of their baby stuff. And that was really helpful, So just like finding communities of people that get it, that can support you. And then when you're out of that and you're able to reciprocate it and give back to someone else, it's like such a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think I say this a lot on here, so my audience is probably like, "Oh my gosh, she says this all the time." But like the best businesses typically come from our own personal struggles. Like you saw the need in yourself and you're like, "Okay, I can help others who are going through this too." And what a beautiful thing it is to be able to take such a big hardship and turn it into something that's not only helping yourself, but helping others along the way too.
Yeah, yeah. And along the way too. So of course, so I launched my business, but then more recently, getting connected with my daughter's friends' parents, like my new mom group of friends, and realizing that we're also having a whole bunch of struggles with like toddlers, and not necessarily struggles, but like the challenges that you
Yeah.
have as a mom, and the work-life balance and the this and the that and the potty training, and all these things that you could read a million books, but there's never an answer. There's never like a definite answer for you, Um, So I realized again how important it was to have a community. And so I launched Sharp Connections, which is a community group where, you know, women can get together and we do workshops, we do networking, but also just, you know, just to connect with like-minded people, because again, it just goes back to community. And I think, you know, when I was going through what I had gone through and different seasons of my life where they were at a lower point of my life, um, I hid my struggles. And I think a lot of it was pride. I think a lot of it was ego. You know, I wasn't ready to be vulnerable in that way. And still today, I, you know, am very prideful of some of my vulnerabilities, you know. Um, but I think when you're allowed, when you allow yourself to just be open, you'll find an answer to what you're looking for. You'll find the support that you're looking for, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. We need we need support, like, at all stages of our lives. And someone I was speaking to recently, who was a fellow consultant, she said, you know, even coaches have coaches. You know what I mean? Like, even though you have all the answers for someone, like, there might be someone that can help you with what you're going through. So even coaches have coaches. And I was like, wow, that made me feel really good. Like,
Yeah.
like that validating feeling, like, you know, we all need support at some point in our life. And I agree with you. I do believe that we all go through challenges in our life so that way we can overcome them and then we can help other people through them. You're a testament to that, you know, through your advocacy work. And I think there are many women listening that are like that too. It's, you might not see it when you're in it, when you're in the struggle, because it's real hard. It's
Mhm.
really scary. It's overwhelming. It just takes over your mind, your body, like everything, just, you know, it can be crippling.
Yeah.
But when you're able to overcome it and you look back and you're like, wow, I went through that. And then you can help someone else. And I think that's a great thing when that can happen.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think it's so important, like you said, to be open and vulnerable to create those like real, true connections. And especially as like women in business, I support small businesses where I know the people and like I know
Yeah.
them deeply. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I understand their struggles and I'm like, okay, like we're the same. I see
Yes.
you and you see me, like, so let's help each other. And so while it can be like really scary to be vulnerable and open in those like conversations, especially around business, like, because we want our business to be like this perfect reflection of us,
Right.
right? But that's not real. And
Right.
it brings in the right people when we are open like that.
Yeah, it's true. It really is true. And that was actually a really beautiful surprise when I started just kind of being a little bit more open and vulnerable, I guess, and showing a more personal side of me. I was really pleasantly surprised with how people reciprocated.
Mm.
And I was able to just like relate to more people and you find more commonalities. And I was like, wow, I'm not being, I guess, rejected for what I'm saying or feeling. You know, my feelings are being validated actually, because they're also going through what I'm going through. And had I not, you know, expressed myself, we wouldn't have had this opportunity to connect and bond and grow like a really beautiful relationship. Um, so that's been a really beautiful thing that's come out of that too,
Yeah.
which can be hard to do. Can be really hard to
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. I went to school for business and marketing, and it was always like taught that like business should be separate from personal, right? And everything. Like, of course, like our finances and things, but like also when we're presenting like our brand image and marketing and those types of things, it should just be very brand focused. But I've actually found that when I'm personal in my branding and my marketing, I do better than when I'm like completely cut off from that side.
It's so true. And it's because feelings determine purchases. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but people connect with people. People don't really connect as much with brands. Like you can gravitate towards a brand and what they stand for. a brand can be funny and have a personality, but generally you're going to connect to a person. So that's why, like, if you have a business, it's really important for you to have a personal brand yourself, because you're the salesperson that's going to lead people into your business. And it makes it a lot easier to kind of convert customers than speaking kind of blindly as this brand, try to connect with people. It's harder to make that connection. You can do it, but it's hard. And I think it gets easier once your brand is a bit more established, but as like a young brand, or, a brand new brand,
Yeah.
it's like you need more of like a face to the brand.
Right. Especially as a solopreneur, I think we forget sometimes that we are the brand. Like,
Yes.
as a person is the brand.
Yes.
And all of the magic that's within us, all of our life experiences, all of the things that have led us to that point are what's going to lead us forward too.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you do brand consulting, right?
Yes.
And what has that been like? How did you get into that? And what are some of like the top lessons that you've learned through building your own brand and working with other brands?
Yeah. Okay. So right off the bat, my biggest lesson was just about finding my voice. Um, like I said before, I was in corporate retail and just in corporate general, for, oh my God,
You
probably
have
like
corporate
15
voice.
years. Forever. My whole professional life has been in corporate. So I was just so like ingrained in my brain, corporate speak,
You
right?
have
So then when
corporate voice.
right. So when I launched my business, and I worked for predominantly luxury brands. So there's like a certain way. We weren't having like fun with cutesy emojis and like things like that. Like it was very high end, like corporate voice, you know? Um, and so when I launched my brand, my company, I was speaking in that same way because that's just how I was taught. So in my mind, I was like, well, this is just how a brand shows up. This is just like how I talk. And I was having a really hard time finding the customers that I really wanted to work with. There was a disconnect there because my website would say and look like one thing, and then I would go out and I would network with people, and I'm me, I'm joking, like I like to joke around, and like, whatever. So when I would talk about my company, it was just, it had so much more personality than when they went and they would find me online. It was like, felt like two totally different companies. Um, and then one day I was just talking to someone about what I do, and like literally like a light bulb went off, and I was like, why don't I say that on my website? Like that's that was a mistake,
Yeah.
So I guess also kind of giving myself permission to show up as myself. And I think that kind of goes back to being vulnerable again, because before I was kind of almost, maybe subconsciously, but like masking my personality behind this company. But now it's like, well, no, this is who I am. And so what I started to do also more recently, and again, this is something that I'm feeling more and more, I'm lying, I'm not really super comfortable, but I'm trying to get myself more comfortable being on camera more even.
Yeah.
Having my face on, like, even on my Instagram and like, things like that, like on my professional pages, because that's what people need to connect with you. And I know this because this is what I'm coaching other people to do. And then when it comes to me, when I have to do it, I shy away from it just because it's so out of my comfort zone, but I know that it's required. So yeah, regardless of whatever your business is, people want to connect with you. They want to see you. They want to hear you. They want to feel you. So make sure that's showing up in the copy that's on your website. Make sure that's coming across on your channels. I wish I had kind of done that sooner, but it's a learning lesson, and I'm still getting more comfortable, and I'm getting there.
Yeah. No, I think
But
it's so good to say though, is like it's so easy to like coach other people to do what we're supposed to be doing, but when it comes to
yes.
actually implementing or doing it, it's so much harder.
Yeah, because I've always been the one. So, I had my career in corporate, but I also would, help friends on the side if they had, creative endeavors that they needed support with, just for fun, because I just enjoyed this kind of work. So I've always been the person that's kind of behind the scenes, promoting the person that is the talent. So now, as a business owner, you kind of have to, in order to showcase yourself and to get your business the attention that it needs, you do have to become the quote unquote talent a bit, you know?
Mhm.
You have to put your face at the forefront, and it can be very uncomfortable, but it does pay off. It is necessary, and it does help you get the clients that you're looking for, and help weed out some potential headaches.
Yeah.
Because I think if anyone's an entrepreneur or not, even if they've just been in a service-based or customer-facing business, um, you've worked with people that are just not really your people, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's not always fun.
Yeah. Well, and it's so true though. Like, I think about the way that, I built my brand, and it definitely forces you to face some of your own vulnerabilities
Yeah,
in building your own business. And like you
yeah,
said, like showing up on video camera, you have to have a certain level of like confidence in yourself to be able to do that.
yeah,
And then to also like, speak as you would normally speak. Like for me, part of my brand is that I swear because like if you talk to me in person, I swear a lot. So like and
yeah,
it's like it's to get my point across in some sort of way, like it's an emphasis on what I'm trying to
I
say.
hear you.
And
Yeah,
like you said, it kind of weeds out the people that are not going to like me. Like if you don't like that I'm swearing, we probably shouldn't work together, and that's okay because we'll just
yes.
be a headache for each other.
No, it's true. And that's a perfect example because there are people that would be really uncomfortable or uptight about it or feel like
Yep.
it's not professional because that's just like what their brand is. And it's important that they see that up front because then they're not wasting their time, they're not wasting your time, right? And then but then you already start to attract the people that find the humor in that and know that it's just a word. You know what I mean? And already it kind of attracts the potential client that would be like a really great pairing for you. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
true. I also joke about with dark humor about, dark subjects, and I'm like, some people do not find that funny, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also have people that reach out that are like, "Oh my gosh, you deal with it the same way I do. I'm so glad I found my people."
Yes. Yeah.
So it's so funny to see that. But like you said, it's so important to just like be able to kind of adjust as you're going along too. Because the thing is, like, you can start out with your brand feeling or looking one way, and you can totally change that too. We forget
That's the
that
beauty of
we
it.
have that option.
That's the beauty of it. And I think also, and you brought up such a great point. I'm glad that you pointed this out too, because I also held myself back from doing a lot of things that I could have, should have, would have done sooner. You know what I mean? Because I had that tendency of being a perfectionist. And that's something like, obviously, don't just throw anything out there. Don't be careless about kind of like what you're doing or what you're saying. But to hold yourself back because you're like, well, maybe it needs one more revision. Maybe I need to kick this around a little bit more. There's always room for adjustment. And the sooner you can get something out there, the sooner you can get feedback from your audience and see what are they liking. Do they like that I use the swear word? Are they not liking that I use the swear word? Like, you know what I mean? Are they liking this image,
Format
or like
this.
what's
Yep.
resonating right with everyone? And then also it gives you a chance to see, am I even enjoying this? Like, do I want to offer this service or not? Like, was this kind of, I thought it'd be fun, but I don't really love it, you know? So it also gives you a chance to see what you're enjoying, and you can refine your services more and position yourself better. So you need to have those opportunities where you're collecting feedback and collecting experiences so that way you can just, like I said, better position yourself. So yeah, the sooner the better, just go and do it. And the beauty of the digital world too, it's not like you're spending a fortune on, you know,
A giant
things, printed
poster or
materials
yeah.
and right, like all these things where it's like, it's a quick edit on your website. And even if you compare yourself to like major brands, like look at how many times they've changed their logos, their colors, their positioning, you know what I mean? there's always room for growth because of evolution. I mean, you have to always adapt and kind of change to what's going on. So, yeah, don't let that hold you back.
Yeah.
Part of the process.
I actually did a post on my Instagram the other day that was about how confidence comes with the combination of knowledge and action together. Because if you spend too much time just like gathering knowledge and never doing anything with it, it doesn't do you any good. But if you're always acting without thinking either, it's no good either. So it's like the
Yeah.
combination of those two things, like. And I think it's kind of hard sometimes in like today's age where we have knowledge at our fingertips at all points in time, whether it's
Yeah.
like, social media, Google, or books or whatever. Like somebody is always going to have a different opinion or a different
Mhm.
way to do things, and it can get really overwhelming if you're trying to do all of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why having a good strategy is so important, because it keeps you focused. It keeps you, even if you want to spend time researching something, fine, but it keeps it really kind of tailored to your objectives and your goals. And is it's really serving what you want the output to be? And then also, the flip side of that though is, to give yourself a timeline for your research, because if you spend so much time researching things, you'll never be done. Because to your point, like there's always so much content, there's always so many resources. You can just go down a rabbit hole, and then that might even feel you, at least for me personally, sometimes that would make me feel so overwhelmed, like, oh, maybe I'm not prepared to do this. Like I haven't read every book on this, or like I haven't, you know what I mean? But it's like, just it's have the strategy. If it falls in part of the strategy, fine, pursue it, but also give yourself a timeline. Because yeah, it's just, there's millions of content that gets published every day, and it's just like impossible to stay on top of. And a lot of it's opinion based too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like form your own opinion on what you know so far and just go from there.
Well, and like you said earlier, test
Yeah.
things out. If it fails, we just like pick it up
Yes.
and try again. I think too many people, especially, women in business, are really terrified of failing, like
Yep.
launching a program and nobody signing up for it, or releasing a book and, it only getting 10 sales or whatever it is. And it sucks and it's hard, but it also is a lesson that we can learn from and grow with if we let it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also I think it's important to point out too that like perception is everything. So if there are people that you follow because you admire their career path or for whatever reason, it's great to follow them as like an aspiration, but just to also keep in mind that what they're sharing is how they want to be perceived. So they might not always be sharing the good, bad, the ugly, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So if they're not, sharing videos of, their kids that have been screaming up all night and that's why they don't look flawless this morning, or, like whatever, or excuse me, it could have been that whatever they posted today, they shot weeks ago when they were, had a babysitter and whatever. So it's really, really hard to compare your current stage to other people's current stage, because it's all perception. They might be posting that, and then behind closed doors, they're broke and they're fighting with their spouse, and you know what I mean? You never know. So it's really hard to compare what you're seeing, and just put what you need to out there.
Absolutely. It's so funny that you say that because actually our last episode that just came out right before this one was with Susie Holman. I don't know if you know her. Simply Susie is on Instagram, but she
Uh-huh.
has like over 100,000 followers. She's built multiple, $1 million or larger businesses. And we talked about what it was like, building and failing in multiple businesses in
Yeah.
the public eye and how much of it you don't see behind kind of those closed doors. It's
Oh
so,
yeah.
so crazy. But
Yeah.
I think social media gives us like this false perception of having an end to everyone's life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. That's why there are a few accounts I'm like racking my brain to think of them off the top of my head, but there are a few accounts that I just love because they'll just go on stories with no makeup and unfiltered, and it's like, my kid's being a jerk today, or like,
Right.
it's like, but it's funny though, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I know, I'm right there with you, girl. Like,
Yep.
um, and I love that, and I like how I am seeing a shift because Instagram used to be so, you know, the grid is, properly curated, and, and I do always enjoy like a beautiful grid, but I am enjoying that it is starting to shift more into a kind of more authentic, um, in real time, real life tool for people to communicate, where people are just coming on live, coming on stories, and they're saying, this is what I'm doing. And it's no filter. It's, no makeup filter and no verbal filter. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is what it is. Because there is so much more humor in that, I think. And I think it makes us all laugh, and also provides a sigh of relief when we can all kind of like just laugh about the chaos that can be our lives sometimes.
Right.
And I enjoy that so much more than like, pretty flowers, although I do love those too, but
Yeah.
it's nice to kind of see that transition.
I agree. I think it's great to see, and I love being a part of that kind of
Yeah.
movement of realness, on those previously very curated spaces.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about our business and promoting it on Instagram and finding the kinds of content and things that people are going to, gravitate towards, how do we do that? How do we build a curated, not curated kind of Instagram for our business?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's really important to have certain pillars that you kind of want to stay within, so that way you're not kind of like all over the place. And you also need to first set boundaries for what you want to have in a public forum, So for me personally, I try to not really incorporate many photos of my children's faces. Um, and it's hard because I think they're so cute, and they are such a major part of my day.
Yeah.
But then it also makes, creating content challenging, because I'm just like, oh shoot, I can't really use that one because of, whatever. So yeah, I would say, definitely have your boundaries set, have your pillars, and stay within those, because then you will start to attract the people that you want to engage with. And then form meaningful connections on that platform. So follow the accounts that you aspire, but also follow accounts that might be potential customers. Follow accounts that might be friends, that might want to collaborate on something. So I think it kind of goes both ways. I also, aside from Instagram, I love LinkedIn. It's done wonders for my business. It is a business platform. So, I suppose you could share some personal things depending on the nature of your business. But it's been a great way to connect with professionals. And they're already on there because they are already in that business mindset. I think usually on Instagram, people kind of want some entertainment and some humor. So they might be in the mindset of whatever it is. So that's been a really great tool. So if you're a business and you're not on LinkedIn, you're definitely missing out.
Mhm.
And I think I've also been pleasantly surprised with how many people are just like open to having a conversation, open to just connecting on LinkedIn, because again, like that's where business is done. So people are just way more receptive to having like virtual networking chats, which has been really nice.
Yeah, that's really good tip. I haven't really used LinkedIn too much for my business, but I may look into it. I do love that you talked about like having a level of openness and vulnerability while also holding boundaries
Mhm.
when it comes to our businesses, because I
Yeah.
think that can be really hard sometimes to like find that balance where it's
Mhm.
like I'm sharing, but I'm not sharing everything.
Yeah.
And there are some things that need to be private or personal, and that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes back to the nature of your business too. Like, you know, I still want to be perceived as a certain way for the type of business that I have. I'm still, a professional authority. So I'm not going to go on there and complain about other businesses. And, there are people that will do reviews and they're like very unfiltered, and if I don't like something, I'm just not going to shop there again. And that's kind of that, like, I'm not going to make a huge thing about it. So I think it's just, being mindful that when it is, I mean, it's kind of like the general rule of thumb, but just as a constant reminder in your head, it's like, if anyone were to see this, would I be comfortable with this? And kind of going back to perception, like if a future client or employer would see this, would I be comfortable with this? I'm always kind of blown away by some people who will go on there and they talk bad about clients, or they like complain about clients. And I think it's meant to be done in a humorous way, but it's not really going to be funny when your client sees it. So it just kind of, just know, like, once it's out there, it's out there. And you need to be comfortable with whoever sees it, that you'll feel like you can stand by what you did. And if you can, then great.
Yeah.
So just to kind of have that boundary.
Well, and there's gotta be some level of knowing yourself so that you can determine what those boundaries are going to look like and be. And, for me, so I run my own business, but I also work full time in finance, and I work for a large firm that has like, I think over 300,000, or
Mhm.
yeah, 300 million of assets under management. And so we're a pretty large firm, and I have to be that certain corporate
Right.
voicey person on there. But then when it comes to my like Instagram and stuff,
Yeah.
I show up as me, like
Right.
I'm going to be swearing, I'm going to be drinking, I'm going to be wearing a swimsuit on there. And that
Uh-huh.
is also okay, because that's also
Yeah.
me, and that's for my personal brand, not for my, business.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
So, as you've gone about like growing your own business and now helping all of these other businesses, what are some of the best tips or tricks that you've picked up along the way, or things that people should know when they go into a business?
My goodness. I don't know if we have time for all this, but
No, that's a lot.
just like, oh my gosh, the
We've
list
got
is
our
flooding.
two.
The list is flooding in my mind. I mean, we already kind of touched on just like go out there and do that. Try not to be like an over perfectionist. Um, and just being okay to, like, you have to be flexible and adapt, because opportunities will come your way, and if they feel like they're kind of like aligned with what you're trying to achieve, just be open to pursue them, because you never know where things might lead. There will be, like, I've been a guest on other podcasts, and they've led to other collaborations and things like that. So that's what I'm saying. Be just open-minded, because you never really know where opportunities can take you. Just be open for the ride. Um, and again, just going back to having a strategy in place, because if it falls within the strategy or long-term or short-term goals, then it's worth having a conversation. But if it's so kind of like far off, then it's like, let's put it on the back burner, so that way you're not flooding your mind with all these things. Because I think, a challenge, at least again for me personally as an entrepreneur, is I have kind of the luxury where I can create what I want to create, right? Like, you can decide what you want to do with your business. I could make a clothing line, I could do this, I could do that. Like, there's so many things that I could do, but what makes sense to do? Like, what's the progression of doing it? So, in corporate, we always do goal setting. I do that with myself too. So annually and quarterly goals, and then that helps me just tackle my big projects into short-term baby steps, so I can tackle them and make sure that they're achieved, and hold myself accountable as a solopreneur. I don't have someone that I can report to that says, all right, well, it's the end of the month, did you do this little thing you said you wanted to do? I have to be that person. So I'm a big fan of lists. I mean, it could be notes on your phone. It could be like an Asana or some kind of project management board you could use. I'm a huge fan of that for keeping things organized, especially as someone who works with clients. I have to keep all my projects organized. I'm a huge fan of Google Calendar. I plug in all of my kids' things, all of my family obligations, my doctor's appointments. I block off time that I'm going to work on certain projects. And I think that if you have something that you really want to work on and you never block the time or plan the time for it,
It doesn't
it'll
happen.
always just be something that you say that you want to do and then you don't do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you want to start working out more, if you want to go to the gym, then you plug in like where do you have the time to go for a walk around the block for a half an hour? Plug that in, or else it will not happen. You'll
Yeah.
tell yourself it will, and it won't. So that
There's
goes for
always something that comes up every time.
always. And again, going back to boundaries, it's really important that if you are dedicating that time to do something for yourself, like a walk or reading or taking a class, like whatever it is that you're doing for yourself, it's so important that you respect the time that you blocked for yourself to do whatever it is, and that you don't do something else instead of it. Because you'll look back at the last month or the last year, and you'll be like, where'd the time go? I never went on that walk.
Yep.
You didn't prioritize it. And so you have to respect the time that you plan for yourself just as much as you would respect the time that you're doing something for your child. Like, you are important too, because when you show up for yourself and you take care of yourself, you're able to take care of your child so much better because you're energized and you're feeling good.
And our businesses too.
That energy and love. Exactly. All that matters equally. And it's hard to balance, but if you plan for it, it can happen. It's just baby steps, a few minutes here, half an hour there, an hour there. It adds up, and all that stuff makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it really does. Well, and I love about how you talk about like goal setting and holding yourself accountable, but also
Yeah.
being flexible to new opportunities and being able to fail and pivot. And those are really hard lessons to learn. And like, I really struggled with those things as a new entrepreneur. It's like, I set this goal, I've got to do it, or I'm a failure. And sometimes just things don't work out that way. And sometimes new opportunities pop up that lead you in a new direction that can actually be very beneficial. And it's being able to like step outside of your comfort zone all the time. It feels like all the time, in order to try new things and, be innovative in life and business and grow, because that's what we're all here to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no right way to do things. I mean, there are a lot of blueprints out there, but what works for you and for your family, and your values and like your goals, so it's your own personal journey that you get to plan for, which is like a really cool thing. Scary, but cool,
All of the things all the time.
all the things.
No, it's so good. Well, this has been so awesome, and you're so great. I'm so glad that you've been able to come on and chat with us.
Thank you.
What all do you have going on? How can we work with you? Where do we find you? All of the things.
Yes. So I'm on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn, you have a business, you need to have a LinkedIn. Michelle Charpentier, that's how you can find me on LinkedIn. And my website, sharpconsulting.com. I help, I do one-to-one coaching. I also do small businesses, support for social media strategy, I guess it's part of it, but marketing strategy and business strategy. So I'm always happy to connect with people, virtually, in person, wherever you are.
Nice. I love it. Well, this has been so good, and I'm so glad I got to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mompreneur podcast. And if you like this episode as much as we did, give us a follow so we can invite you back every Wednesday. And of course, share it on all your socials. Being a confident mompreneur means uncovering your strengths and struggles so you can dive in and learn how your next steps could be your greatest.